Good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending this evening's ACY Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Before we move along, if you could just read through the risk disclaimer. And as we're going through the live analysis webinar, if you do have any questions, just type them in for me. Try and keep them to the question box. Then I know you're asking me a question. I've got the chat box open as well, so I'll see that if you're using that, but try and keep your questions to the question box. That will help me. All right, a little bit about myself, if you don't know me. Just looking at the names who are attending at the moment, I think you all know me, but my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor at ACY Securities. And I'm a full-time Forex trader, been trading the Forex market now for more than 15 years. Had the opportunity of mentoring clients over the last 10. If you need to contact me, you can get me at duncan.cooper@acy.com. So anything regarding the webinars, feel free to drop me an email. If you want to connect with me at the acy.com website, you can get me at the Market News tab with my analysis. You'll find me on the ACY Securities Australia YouTube channel. You'll find my video analysis. There's some education videos there, and also some live analysis recordings you can review. And if you want to connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn, those are my handles. Now, just before we get into tonight's webinar, just to give you a heads up, last night we went through support and resistance and the beginning webinar series. And tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock Sydney time, we're going to be going through market trend. And over the coming 2 weeks, we're going to go through these following topics. And over the further, I think, just counting them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 3.5 weeks worth of more webinars there as we're heading into the middle of December. So those are the topics we're going to be covering over the next 6 weeks, 7 weeks or so. So make sure you book in and attend. So tomorrow we're going to be going through market trend, and next week we'll be going through trend lines and pivot points. This evening, it's a live market analysis webinar, so let's get into the charts. And I'm just looking at the attendee list. I'll just talk about my charts before we get into the analysis. My charts will look different to the ones that you can download. So I'll just give you a link so you can download a file. If you'd like to upgrade your charts to mine so you can follow along with the webinars and the live market analysis, then I'll just give you a link that you can download a file. There it is in the chat. And that file is a WinRAR file. I'll just show you on my desktop. It looks like this. You just need to download it, double click on it. If you don't have WinRAR software or zip software, you'll need to download one or the other to open it up. And then these folders need to be moved to the MT4 platform program folder. There's a video in here. I'll just show you how you do it. It takes 2 minutes. Just follow the video. You'll have it done in 2 minutes. It's really easy. Okay, so if you want to download that file and upgrade, you're more than welcome. All right, so I'm going to be going through some of the tools and techniques that I do use in the webinar series. So I might use some tools today that you may have not seen before, but I will be covering them as I'm going through the webinar series. So you'll just have to hopefully get intrigued and come along and learn the whole A to Z of how to use the tools that I've got on my charts. All right, so I'm going to go through the pairs that I'm watching. And I'm predominantly going to go through support and resistance, trend, and the fib levels that I'm watching. And last night I did go through support and resistance. So if you were with me last night, this will be a good exercise for you. See where I'm putting my support and resistance in on the live charts as I'm trading through the course of the week. All right, any questions before we get going? Just type it in. I'm actually just going to click through and see what's going on before I just jump in and do analysis, just in case something really interesting is happening. So I'm just clicking through, see if there's a setup, immediate setup on anything. I don't think anything immediate setting up. We're getting some pullbacks against the dominant trends intraday. All right, we'll start with the dollar yen. And now, obviously, intraday here, we can see it's moving up. But as I always say, I don't base any decision just on the 15-minute chart. So just because that's moving up doesn't mean I'm going to buy it. So with that in mind, let's start on the monthly chart. And I've been discussing this area of resistance up here, where we traded up to monthly resistance at 114.72 and 114.54. Traded into the area, and we've been this month trading down on the candle. So are we going to hold here and move long-term down? We're going to need to see many months of trading to see whether that's going to happen. But on the weekly chart, we're still in an uptrend on the monthly and the weekly charts, but we're having some weekly candles down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. We actually put in a very minor lower top last week. We had a week up last week, and we've had a week down this week, and we've broken a minor low, and we've got a minor lower top and broken a minor lower bottom. So to me, this is really starting to be a weekly downtrend. MACD still crossed up, but in the short term, I'm expecting that this will pull back to this weekly top at 111.65 in the short term. And then that will be a question of, are the sellers really in control? I want to move it below that level. If they want to move it below that level long term, we may see a revisit down to, this level of support on the monthly chart, this level of support. Obviously, those levels are miles away, but if let's say we do meet those levels, well, the place that you want to be starting to look to engage for a long-term move is up here at major resistance. Because if we're failing at major resistance, potentially we could move back down to major support. Obviously, there's lots of weekly levels of support here need to be broken. And the first one would be at 111.65. So that's the first hurdle as we start to move down. On the day chart, what we're seeing is a lower top, lower bottom, having a bit of a rally intraday. And the first level of resistance and the level I'm watching, there's a couple of levels in here on the day chart. And put them both in 113.253. And slightly higher one at 113.49. I like to put the exact numbers in, as I said last night. No point having it just close, because support and resistance is going to come in at support and resistance. All right, so I'm watching really as we're having some form of rally. So we've had a negative 1, 2, 3, 4 days down. It can't go down forever before we have some positivity. So we may get 1, 2 days up, or we might just get 1 day up today, or we just trade up to that level of resistance, which might be just before yesterday's high. But I'm watching those two levels. Move to the 4-hour chart. This MACD is just looking like it might want to move up. So that might be the precursor to having a day up. So I'm watching these two levels from the day chart. I can see there's a minor 4-hour level there as well. So there's a band of resistance there that I'm going to be watching between 1325 and 1340. That's if we can get there. I'm just going to move it down, have a look at the 1-hour chart, see what I'm seeing. We're just having a minor uptrend at the moment on that rally. And on the 15-minute chart, so I'm going to go back to the 4-hour just for a moment and put a fib in across the current range. So we've got a 4-hour downtrend. We're having a rally. I'm just putting a fib on just to see where the rally points are in the fib tool. And then I'll move to my 15-minute chart. So we're just getting close to the 50. I can see that the 62 level is just beyond 1325 daily resistance. So I'm just looking to see if there's anything obvious there that I like. Really, I don't like the fib level because I never trade at that level. I always trade at the 62 or the 79. So that doesn't excite me. I know we're getting a little bit close to it. I'll just be watching today. This support level so that's now resistance, and the 62 area at 113.30. If we were to get into that area or actually move further up, I can see today's projected high aligns with the next level of resistance. So that whole area there has the potential, and that area could be good tomorrow as well, because the fib will still be good tomorrow, and those levels of resistance I've drawn will be good tomorrow. So that whole area there would be the area to watch for a failure, be it today or tomorrow. So day chart trend is down. My bias is to be a seller at a level that I like. So I've just marked in an area that I like. Now, if you want to be a little bit more ambitious today, of course, we could just get a trend line break as we're testing this little area, pivot in the 50% level. I don't like that level. I'd much prefer to see it fail higher up, but we may get a trend line break there. All right, I'm going to move left to the Aussie yen and go through that pair. And I'm just having a look, got something coming in the chat. Stephen, you're asking what do you need to download? I'm just giving you a link in the chat. It's a raw file that you can download to upgrade to my charts if you want to upgrade. Within that raw file, there's a video that you can watch, and that will show you exactly how to do it. All right, hopefully that answers your question. You want me to have a look at gold? I can have a look at gold straight away, and then I'll get into the other pairs. We covered this actually yesterday when we did support and resistance, and it's an excellent lesson on support and resistance, in this case resistance, because we've actually traded up yesterday into the 118.31 level. So on the weekly chart yesterday, I drew in some levels, and then I refined it on the daily chart to, there's 4 daily chart tops here. I'm using the first one and the last one and creating an area of resistance, and we traded into it yesterday. And on the 4-hour chart at the moment, we're having a little bit of a pullback. Now the 4-hour chart is still in an uptrend there. Nothing's really changing except for one thing, but just note that the day chart trend is still up. We're just head-butting into resistance. This is a higher top to the last top. I said to you yesterday that the weekly chart and the monthly chart's a little bit mixed, a bit range bound, and we're up to the top of that range of those timeframes. So the question is the top of the range going to hold? At the moment, it looks like it is based on the 4-hour chart intraday. So there's back to your 4-hour chart. Price hasn't changed trend, but the MACD's crossed down. So that's kind of a precursor to maybe price wanting to trade down and break the last higher bottom. If it breaks the last higher bottom, these levels that I drew in yesterday, there's 2 daily levels of support from this high and this high. And they are at 118.13.77 and 118.10.35. And there's also this little 4-hour support low at 18.12.35. So there's 3 little levels of support there that the market could trade into and hold. And yes, just bounce off and come up for a further retest of this very strong daily chart, weekly chart resistance area. So what I would like to see if I was going to engage to the downside is, well, you could have traded it up here at the top on a 15-minute chart, but there's a bit of a resistance at the top and support here. You know, the safest area would be to trade either on a break, let price break that low, rally then back up to put in a lower top, and in that area look to sell. Or, depending on what price does, you just let price break below that level of support, let price rally back up, and that level of support becomes resistance. So then you can trade down from that area of resistance. Now, the other option that we could be seeing is that price is going to move through this area. So if price decides to break north, I would like to see price break clearly through, and the area of resistance becomes new support for the market. And then you're looking for an opportunity to buy as price heads back up off support. All right, so that's the scenarios I would watch for. But just going back to the daily at the moment, it's looking a little bit suspicious that that might hold at the moment. We're having a negative day. Of course, it's still intraday. We'll have to wait and see what tomorrow brings. But in the webinar on candlestick patterns, if we have just a straight red day down to the low of the day before, we've kind of got railroad tracks there if that happens. So that will be a reversal candle showing that maybe, yes, we are topping out here. And that's the question of how do you manufacture a trade setup to get in. All right, so time will tell. Just let price action prove it to you on the 4-hour chart that you're getting a definite change, because at the moment the structure on the 4-hour chart is still up in terms of price, but the MACD's crossed down. All right, I'm going to move left and get into the Aussie yen. It's one of my favorite pairs at the moment. And I reviewed this pair this week. Just going to tidy up off a few lines so we can talk about the monthly for a moment. Some of these pairs that are showing good, strong downtrends on the daily charts are actually in uptrends on the higher time frames. So the monthly chart here on the Aussie yen, it is clearly up, higher bottom, higher top, higher bottom, higher top. I reviewed this in video form this week. It's on the YouTube channel. And we've got resistance at 85.80 on the monthly and support down here at 77.85. And the weekly chart as well is showing an uptrend, higher top, higher bottom, higher top. Obviously, last 3 weeks we've held at this monthly level of 85.80 and we're pulling back. Very negative last week after tagging the level, and still got to be mindful that we're in an uptrend. Are we going to get a significant reversal? Like if this MACD crosses down, we're going to see negative divergence because that's a higher top here. So we just need a few more candles to tell us whether or not things are really starting to change trend or not. As we move down, if you're already in a trade, good level to take profit at in the short term would be at 82.01, this level of support. That could become good support for the market for a trade back up. Now, if that level breaks, then because I'm seeing a double top here, using my fib tool, drag it from high to low, I'm measuring the height of the pattern from high to low underneath and projecting it below. Double top pattern is the height of the pattern. Projected below gives you a target. That's my 200% level down here. That's at 69.90. So long term, we could trade down to that level if we start to see some really nice looking downward trending market from that top. It's a bit too soon to say, but we're in the area where if that's going to start to unfold, this is where you want to start to get in for the long-term move down if that's what's going to happen. So we've been selling off. Weekly trend remains up. Day chart trend, though, is clearly down. We had a minor double top up here last week. And it's been moving down. I've been waiting for a rally. It just keeps going down. And it might not rally. It might just keep going down to 82 support before it has its first bounce. But what I'm doing is I'm just drawing a fib from last week's high down to the current low. As a new low comes in, I'm just dragging down. Like these cross down, just confirming the trend. And I'm just waiting for an obvious rally point. So I'm going to drop down to the daily once more, just put in this level of resistance at 84.599. Had that in before, 5. So it would be great if price would rally back up to that level. That would be a great area to look to trade down from. G4-hour chart. Now, intraday 4-hour, I can see that there's an area of tops up here at 84.168. That could offer further resistance if price wants to rally. So on the way back up, if we do rally up significantly, 84.16 could be a good level to trade down from. A little bit deeper, the daily level of resistance is at 84.59. And then the obvious levels are the 62 level at 84.88 and 85.40 further up. I'm hoping it won't get that deep, but it might just have a day up. And a day up might mean we get up to 84.16. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for on the Aussie, ideally. Getting intraday, all I'm seeing is that things are looking negative. In that if we're in a very strong downtrend, we don't get beyond the central pivot point. Yesterday, we pretty much were at the central pivot point, and any rally got nowhere near back up to the central pivot. Today, we can see that we didn't quite get there, short by a few pips, and that might be as high as price goes today before coming back down to the low of the day. Time will tell. So you might want to engage in a trend line break coming down from that central pivot. For myself, I'm just waiting to see if we can have a higher bounce. I'm actually already in this pair. I got short at 85 further up. So I'm just looking for another opportunity to maybe increase my position for the move down. So I'd rather get in a little bit higher up, but price doesn't always give me what I want. So it may hold here and give you a trend line break. Just have to see how price action unfolds during the course of the day. To the Aussie dollar, and what I wanted to emphasize to everybody as well, I'm just going to go to my browser, forexfactory.com, the news items for the week. With the Aussie pairs, we do have coming out tomorrow. These are Queensland time, 10:30 in the morning Queensland time. If you're in Sydney, it's 11:30. We've got the unemployment figure. So we may just pull back a bit on the Aussie crosses as we've been moving down on these pairs as we wait for that figure to come out. And then we'll see which way price goes after that. All right, so just be aware of that item. That's one of the items I wanted to point out. All right, to the Aussie dollar then, let's have a look at this pair. Monthly perspective. So lower top, we broke below a minor bottom here. So for me, this is a lower bottom. And I've been having a fib drawn across here. And what we'll see is that we've kind of failed just short of the 62 level. And I have been focusing on this top here, this weekly level, 74.78. We've been above it and below it a few times, and now we're back below it. So any movement back up, I'm going to be watching 74.78. That's that weekly top for further resistance. So the monthly trend is down. Now the weekly is up, but that's just up because it's been rallying up on the monthly. I'm fully expecting that over time, the weekly chart will turn back to down as it moves down the range. All right. As it does move down the range, if it does, 71.70 is a good level of support you need to be mindful of, because price might stop there, 71.70. First level of weekly support as we're moving down. Daily, we're just contending with a minor level of daily support here, which I'm going to put in 73.59. So that's just offering a bit of support at the moment. It's last week's low. If we break that level, your next level of support that you need to think about is 73.04. So I'll put that in as well. So if you're going to be trading this pair, and we know the news is coming out tomorrow, then have these levels in way ahead of time so you know what's going on. You might be already short, and the news comes out poorly, and it drops straight down to 73 and then holds. So what do you want to do? Do you want to take profits? Do you want to trade back up the other way? It bounces up. So get these levels drawn in. Now the day chart trend is down. So I might want to take profit at 73.04 and wait for a bounce up, but I don't think I'll be trading up because the day chart trend is down. I'd like to be trading in line with that trend. So I just need to know where it is in case I want to manage a trade that I'm in. So we're on a downtrend. And on the 4-hour chart, we have a downtrend. And we've been having a bit of a candle up. One candle up, maybe that's all we're going to get before we break back below 73.59 and trade down to the 7300 level. But what I'll do is I'll draw a fib from final high just in that area to the low at the moment. If it keeps moving down, I'll just keep dragging down. But we might get a bit more of a deeper rally through the course of the day. Just having a look at the 1 hour. MACD's just crossing up. A 1 hour trend is just holding at the moment. It needs to break above that minor top to change the trend. So if we do break above that minor top at 73.83, we're probably going to be heading up towards the 62 or the 79% level. Noting today's projected high comes in at the 79% level. So if we did have a sharp rally, that would be a good area to trade down from. So on the 15-minute chart, I'm talking about this area here. Today's projected high is at 74.13 and the 79% levels at 74.40. So that would be an excellent area to look to trade down if we got up to that level. I'm not sure we can get up to that level. We might get up to that level tomorrow, post-news, time will tell. What I can also see, so let's say price just keeps going along this range here today before the news comes out tomorrow. What I can also see is within this fib range, the 62 level lines up with the figure here. So if price does move up, just mark it in two areas that I like, and I'll be watching for failure to move down today or tomorrow. Just looking at my chat. All right, Stephen, if you're asking me how do you change the color of the fib? Well, if you download my charts, then your fib tool will be my color because it will change it for you. But right now, if you wanted to change it, you need to select it, right click on it, go to Fibo properties, go to common, change the color in here. Select your color from the drop down menu. And the fib levels, so in the common, change it to whatever color you want. On the fib levels as well, change it to whatever color you want. All right. But as I say, if you do download my charts and install, then the fib tool will look like mine. All right. So the question is, can we get up to these deeper levels? May only get to the central pivot point, and you can look value there too, but I'll just be watching these levels tomorrow. So 74.14 higher up and 74.01. All right, getting into now the euro yen. I don't know if I've got too much to talk about euro yen, other than it's really doing what I've been saying over the last few weeks. This resistance area up here, these are monthly levels at 134.12 and 133.12. And we moved into that level and be pulling back. And I said, if we fail up here, we'd probably pull back to weekly support. So that's where we're at the moment. So the market is still in an uptrend on the weekly chart there, pulling back to a significant level of support. Is it going to hold? If it holds, you should be looking to trade back up to see if it can trade back up to 133.12, or can it break below in line with the weakness across the other yen pairs. So I'm just going to put a line in here. This is the next level of support at 127.96. And that would be the next level to target if we do break below 130.73, if we see continued strength on the yen side. So the day chart is going to show you a downtrend. Now, as I say, it's holding on weekly support here. Now this may move up just within the current lower top, lower bottom range on the day chart. So I'll draw a fib from high to low. And all the price might do is bounce on weekly support, come up to the 62.79% level, either one of those levels, and then simply continue its trend down and break weekly support. And then we're heading down towards the next level of long-term support. All right, I just altered my line. It's at 927, that level. Didn't look quite right. So the longer term level down there is at, if I stop moving it around, it's at 92.7, 127.927. So if you see the other yen crosses breaking their levels of support, expect this to break through, and that's your next target at 127.92 for the long term. So the question is, are we going to bounce on weekly support? At 130.736. And get all my lines right. Now, price as it heads back up, if it does head back up, could also hold at 131.54 daily resistance here. So the two prominent levels at the moment are weekly support at 130.73. Are we going to hold and bounce up? If it does, then the first level that could stop it would be daily resistance here at 131.54. Of course, as well, we could move up to the 62 or the 79. So look at those levels for failure as well. All right, so that's what I'm looking for. I don't really want to be a trader here trading up. For me, that's too aggressive because the trend is down on the daily. And that might be a very short-term move. So I like to trade in line with the day chart trend. That's what I teach in the webinar series. So the day chart trend is down. So I'll just be looking. I'm going to go to my 50-minute chart to see what I'm seeing at the moment. Obviously, we're having a rally up at the moment. And I'm just going to go back to my 4-hour chart. And looks like on the 4-hour chart here, we're about to take out the last lower top. So we may well get a move up the range. You need to decide, do you want to trade counter trend up that range or not? We've almost got positive divergence on the indicator, but we don't. It's just crossing up here. So I'm guessing if I had to, have a bet, this is probably going to bounce up off weekly support at the moment. Then it's a question though, how far does it bounce up before maybe the day chart trend comes back into play? All right, so as I was saying, I'll lead back to the 4-hour chart. Bouncing off weekly support, I'll be watching up here at about the 131.54 area to see if that area can act as resistance to trade back down. All right. Euro-dollar. This is getting quite range bound. I'm on the weekly chart here first of all. I've got a level of resistance drawn in at 116.64 from that low there. A level of resistance drawn in here at 116.03. Level of weekly support drawn in at 115.24. If we break that level, there's then another little level here at 114.95, which I guess I should put in. Now the overall trend on the euro is down. It's a little bit range bound in here, but the trend is down. We're moving to a lower bottom. We've rallied and failed at resistance here. We've moved down, tested that level of support at 115.24, and we're just deciding, can the sellers still be in control and move through 115.24 and 114.95. And if a pair doesn't look inviting, you don't have to trade it. You just keep the charts up to date until you see something that jumps out at you that you like the look of. Now, I don't really need to alter my support and resistance. There are some minor levels here in the daily chart, but it's really the weekly chart levels that are holding the price action within this range. And yesterday, when I was doing support and resistance, I was saying that price is testing the weekly level and what would price do. And we can see that that held and has been trading down. So it's just churning the 4-hour chart trend to down in terms of price action. MACD is not yet crossed down. 1-hour chart trend is down. Back to the 4-hour, just draw a fib from that last top to the current low. And then back to my 15. He's on the 15. Do I see any low overlaps with the fib tool and some of my other tools with my pivots in the figure? So moving back up. The pivot, central pivot and the 62% level are within 2 pips of each other. So it looks quite large that on the screen, but it's only 2 pips. So an area where I would, if I wanted to trade this pair, this area here, the 62 level and the central pivot, which is at 115.91. So 115.91 down to 115.89. That could act as resistance and be a good level to trade down from on a setup. Of course, as well, if it wants to go deeper, we've got the figure here and the weekly level of resistance at 16.03. So that's another area where you can look for a possible failure, and as well as a pivot in the middle of those two things. M3 pivot, figure, weekly resistance up there. So it's not in an area where I want to engage in a trade, but if it did get up here, I'd have a closer look, because you can see yesterday, strong 15-minute rejection and then a massive candle down. That's just the sellers just jumping on board from that area. So sellers will be up there wanting to trade back down if price gets up there. So the question is, can price get up to that level and give you a nice setup to trade down? All right, let's get into the pound yen. And this is like the euro yen. The weekly trend is remaining up, but it's failing at monthly resistance. That monthly resistance is this major top over here. And we did actually trade above for a little bit, but we couldn't live above that level for too long. So are we going to get a major reversal down to, you know, the bottom of the major range? Who knows? Could be exactly like what I was been discussing on the dollar yen. Got a question? So you're asking me, why don't I choose the 38 level, the 38% fib level? With the fib tool for myself, I only focus on the 62 level or the 79% level. I'm going to go through that in a webinar. I'll probably explain a bit more, but if I put a fib on, I've got a fib here back on the euro dollar. If you spend a lot of time watching the fib tool, yes, price can stop at the 38, but in terms of high probabilities, it often stops at the 62 or the 79. So if it often stops at the 62 or 79, then more often than not, it goes through the 38 level and goes through the 50 level. So I don't use those levels myself to trade off at all. Okay, so those are my trading rules. Of course, somebody else might say, well, the 38% level is a valid level, I can trade off it. But for me, from my experience and watching years and years of price action, price often just moves above the 38. It's a very low probability level to trade down from or up from. Okay. All right, let's get back to the pound yen. So as I was saying with the pound yen, it's very much like the dollar yen, failing at the high level of monthly resistance, top of the range. Is it long-term going to move down? Like I was saying on the Aussie yen, is it going to move down from the double top? There's a double top forming here, both on the monthly scale and the weekly scale. Well, a triple top really on the monthly. This area, I know that looks like it's a long way above that top, but it's still close enough for a double top if it starts to break down. Now, in the weekly chart, we're still seeing an uptrend. It's very much like the euro yen. It's got rejected at monthly resistance. It's pulling back to weekly support. So the euro yen at the moment and the pound yen are highly correlated in terms of what we're seeing on the weekly charts. That's at 152.846. And as well, if you break through that level, the next level of support to watch would be down here at 148.948. So the weekly trend is up. And what you have to do is, I've actually got a negative bias to pairs to the yen, in that I'm expecting the yen may be appreciating over the coming months because of what I'm seeing on the dollar yen in terms of it really stopping at that major resistance level. I'm expecting to move down and change the weekly trends. And I'm expecting that may be the same cause and effect on all the other yen crosses. But your viewpoint might be different. You may be saying, well, this weekly trend is up, it's pulling back to weekly support. I want to get long and trade up to see whether if it trades up and breaks through monthly resistance on the second move up. And that's more than probable. You just have to decide exactly how you're expecting price to unfold and then go from there. Now, what I am seeing on the weekly chart that might favor my analysis is when we put in the top up here, there was some negative divergence. When we put this top in up here to this top, that's obviously a higher top to that top, but the indicator is not making a higher top. It's still making possibly a lower top. So we're getting two kind of two kinds of negative divergence at the resistance area. Is that the precursor to a significant change in trend? Well, time will tell. So I'm seeing some things that may be telling me that we may be getting a longer term reversal. Price, though, has to prove it. And for that reversal to come together, we need to break below 152.73. So your day chart trend is going to show down. Like I was saying on the euro yen, I'm expecting price will bounce maybe. And I'd like to see what does it do if it moves back to daily resistance up here at 155.92. So that's the level I'm watching. I'm not really going down to any deeper level at the moment on that pair. I'm just seeing, well, does this ever bounce back up to my resistance area? What does it do as it gets back up to that level? Now, of course, as I can see it there on the day chart, we've got lower tops and bottoms, good angle and separation on the MACD. That's not going to cross up any day soon. So the question is, how deep a bounce do we get from this level of support? Is it minor and we break through, or do we come up? So I'm just going to watch how far it comes up and then see if I could sell it at a higher price somewhere. If it can fail at 155.92, that would be great, but that's quite a long way away. I'm not sure it can get that deep. So I'm just monitoring. Pound dollar. All right, the weekly chart trend. We've got three lower tops here and a lower bottom. We've had a rally. It collapsed last week after the poorer than expected interest rate decision. They didn't put interest rates up. And we've been having a bit of a bounce in between weekly support at 134.11 and weekly resistance at 136.02. It came up to that level yesterday. So if you're in the support and resistance webinar we did yesterday, if you had that level drawn in, that would be a great level to trade down from, because the weekly trend is down. Your day chart trend is down, lower tops and bottoms. We did have a nice rally back up, and we put in a spinning top candle at weekly resistance. There's a minor daily level resistance in here too. Drawing a fib in from last week's high to low, we've actually retraced 62%. To 4-hour chart, what you can see structurally in the 4-hour chart is that that's the range of last week's candle. We often pull back to the 62 or 79% level of last week's candle. We pull back to the 62 area, held at weekly resistance. There is a 4-hour level here too. So there's a nice area of 4-hour old support, two levels there. At 36.05, 36.07, we actually traded up to 36.07. That's how good support and resistance is. It held, and then we traded down. So the 4-hour structure now is turned down. We fell at the 62 level of last week's range. I'm anticipating, if nothing changes now, because the 4-hour trends turn back to down, we will be moving down to test support and maybe move through to the 127 extension. So it's just a question of, can price intraday bounce up, give you an opportunity to sell at a better price? So we've been moving down. I would anticipate that, we're going to move down, we're going to rally, put in a lower top somewhere, could put in a lower top next to this top here at 135.79. And then if it failed in that area, decided to put in a lower top, that's where you're going to start to get short, sell for the next move down. So the trend on the pound is very clear. The weekly chart trend is down. The day chart trend is down. I just want to double check I'm not telling the wrong thing. Day chart trend is clearly down. And the 4-hour is down. So weekly, daily, 4-hour charts are down. Just looking for an opportunity to sell down now. In actual fact, today we've actually double topped at the central pivot. And we can't go back in time, but there was a nice little trend line break in here. You could have initiated a trade to the short side in through the break. About 35.42 maybe, you could have gotten in. And it's trading down at the moment. Even though it is having a minor bounce, but obviously it's below the level that you could have sold it at before. So it's on its way down. We've already seen intraday failure at the central pivot. That could be the high of the day. So I'm not seeing a level at the moment I like to trade down from. Where it broke the trend line would have been great, but that's already occurred. So for me now, if I wanted to engage on this pair, I'd like to see a rally on the 4-hour chart. So maybe price will move further down. I can draw my fib in and look to see if I can sell at a 62 or a 79% level on failure. Or if we have a nice negative day down today, then tomorrow, can we once again fail at the central pivot point like it showed us today? So price trades down today, and then tomorrow, as it rallies at some point intraday, does it hold at the central pivot point, fail, and give you an opportunity to trade down like it did today? All right, so look for that scenario that we see today, tomorrow at the central pivot. All right, the last pair I want to go through this evening is a New Zealand dollar. And if you've been following me along in the webinars, in the live analysis, then you would know that 71.70, that's that top there, has been very clear support and resistance for the pair. And I just want to start with the monthly chart. It's very similar to the Aussie dollar in that it's making a monthly lower top, lower bottom. We've been having a rally, a couple of months up. This month hasn't traded above last month's high. MACD is almost crossing down. See, when we got the last crossover here, we had a major move down over many, many months, probably a good year or more. So if this is the first cross down since the cross up, we could be trading well down the range. Trend is down, we're just rallying. That rally, I'm just going to draw a fib from that monthly high to low. And you can see that we've traded to the 79% level. Yes, another weekly chart trend is up. It's just though 1 or 2 months up on the monthly chart, rallying against the monthly downtrend. That will give you a weekly chart uptrend. I'm expecting this will change to down over time. And the level I've been watching, 71.70, this top. I'm actually short at 71.70. So you could have traded back at that level yesterday, but obviously we're trading down now from that level, and we're just moving back below the 62 level on the fib tool. So I failed at the 79, just moving back below the 62. Of course, moving down, this weekly level of support needs to be respected, 68.59. But if the monthly trend does move down within that fib tool, then we may well see that weekly level broken over time. And we may see a move through this level of support, through that level of support, and down towards the 127 extension. And that level's at 66.66. So if you're getting short, just doing the maths, if you're getting short a little bit above 71, then there is at least 400 pips down to that level. So we are in the area where if your mind is in the same mind as mine, that we may be moving down over a few months, then we're in the area where you could be getting in for a long-term trade down, and there could be the potential of a good 400 pip move down. So the day chart trend, we actually had a lower top just, minor double top, slightly lower top to a lower bottom. We've been rallying back up. We've held at resistance from that top. You can see all these candles here where it was rejecting that area, and I'm expecting this to move further down over the course of time. For our chart, we've just broken the last higher bottom, so we actually have a lower top, lower bottom. This could have a rally within that move down on the 4-hour. Just going to my 50-minute chart, see what overlaps. And central pivot here overlaps with the 50%. As I said, I don't really pay too much attention in the 50% level, but I do pay attention to the central pivot. So that's there. Of course, today we haven't got to the central pivot, so this pair is very weak today. So if we did get up to the central pivot anytime today, it could hold there and fail. So that would be a level that I would clearly watch. trade down from. Looking further up, the 62 or the 79 level doesn't overlap with anything today in terms of pivots. Could do tomorrow. So I'll just have to see what happens tomorrow. If my 62 level or my 79% level overlaps with a pivot tomorrow, then those would catch my eye tomorrow. If today price just can't get up to the central pivot and even moves a bit further down, then tomorrow I'll just be looking at the central pivot to see if it can fail there once more and trade down. Because if it's not getting up to the central pivot today, then my expectation tomorrow would be that if it can get to the central pivot, that would be a great area to expect price to fail at, to trade down. Of course, tomorrow we've got the job figures in Australia coming out. Usually the job figures, positive or negative, will impact the New Zealand dollar because they're just over the ditch. So highly correlated with the Aussie pairs. All right, so whatever happens with the Aussie tomorrow, this will probably follow the same suit. So today, intraday, I'll be watching the central pivot at 71.34 for failure and a trend line breaks the downside. And then tomorrow, checking out these deeper 62 or 79% areas on the fib tool. Of course, price could get back up to 71.70, and then you can look for a trade down from that resistance area, but I don't know how many times it can keep getting up to that level before it decides it can't rally as deep. If it's going to move further down over the long term, it can't keep rallying back up to 71.70, so we may have had the last chance at selling at that level, so you might have to look at selling at a lower level if you want to trade in line with the current move down. All right, we've got about 8 minutes to go. If there's a pair that you'd like me to go through that I haven't gone through, or an instrument, just type it in. Just going to check my chat. Stephen, you'd like me to look at the Euro New Zealand. And Safi, you're asking me everything that I'm going through, will we find it in a PDF? So everything I've gone through in terms of the technical aspects, Fibonacci, pivot points. Just getting my PowerPoint back up. Trend lines, pivot points, the figure, Fibonacci, those tools. I'm going to go through those over the coming fortnight. So I've been touching on those tools tonight, showing you how I'm using them. Of course, if you've never seen them before, you'll be a little bit in the dark, but I'm going to go through each one of those in detail. Yes, you'll get a PDF of those lessons, so then you can refer to them as well. Okay, Safia, so just book yourself in for the forthcoming webinars and we'll teach you all about those tools. All right, so a couple of people want to look at Euro New Zealand for Stephen and a Lufameg pound franc. So let's quickly go through those. So Euro Aussie. Just got to find it. And as well, for those that are using my chart layouts, I'm now using the 12 pairs set of charts because daylight savings come off the table now. There's no longer daylight saving in the Northern Hemisphere. So I'm just using the 12 pairs set of charts in the profile here. All right, let's have a quick look through the trends. The euro dollar at the moment, sorry, the euro Aussie at the moment on the monthly is actually in a downtrend, lower tops and bottoms. However, it's not taking out this level of monthly support, 152.52. I can see a level of resistance that you need to note just here at 160.33. So the monthly is down, but we can see we're having a positive month. Weekly trend is down. This could come up to a weekly support here at 158.99. Certainly watch that level if it comes up to that level. So weekly trend is down, lower top, lower bottom. I draw a fib from high to low on the weekly, and I can see the 62 level lines up with the weekly level of old support becoming new resistance if it comes up to tag it. Daily chart. Daily chart trends up at the moment. So depending on the type of trader you are, if you're a position trader, you'd be looking for an opportunity to sell higher up, maybe at the 62 level, in line with that level of resistance. If you're intraday trading, then you'd be looking at trading in line with the day chart. Now, obviously, the day chart trend is up, but the dominant trend, monthly, weeklies are down. So you are pushing the boat there unless you know something different and you're expecting a major change in trend. So the 4-hour chart, have a quick look at that. That's an upward structure as well. So if you want to trade intraday upwards, I'd be drawing a fib, monitoring the pullback. Does it pull back to the 62 here? 62 at 156.46 lines up with this 4-hour level of old resistance, should be support at 156.48. I'll just draw that in. So if you wanted to be trading in line with the day chart trend, you thought it's going to trade up deeper, maybe up to that weekly level of resistance, then that would be a great level to look for support intraday. Move it to the 15. This area down here, 156.48, would be a good area to look for an opportunity to trade up. It lines up with today's projected low, 62% level. So there's a number of things just in that area. So if you don't have my charts, I'm looking at 156.48 as 4-hour support. On a pullback, lining up with the 62% fib level, okay? So that goes through the Euro Aussie for you. Oh, sorry, Stephen, you said the Euro New Zealand. So that's the Euro Aussie. I'll get to the Euro New Zealand in a moment. Let me just do a loop on the pound franc. Sorry, I misread. In fact, I'll do yours first, Stephen. Euro New Zealand, sorry. So it'll be interesting to see if the Euro Aussie looks like the Euro New Zealand. All right, monthly charts. Let me just get my template overlaid. All right, so obviously the New Zealand here is a little bit weaker than the Euro Aussie. We've moved to actually a fresher low on the monthly chart. It's just coming up to retest that monthly level of support that's got broken at 63.22. And there's another level here, but we'll just use this level here. There's a few levels in here. We'll use the most recent one that we're coming back up to tag, 163.22. So lower tops and bottoms. MACD is a bit more aggressive on the move down there as well. So we may be having a continued move. Weekly chart, lower tops and bottoms. At the moment, the question is this level of monthly support that's got broken going to act as resistance and hold? And then can you trade down from it? Daily chart. It's a bit choppy in here. The market's making its decision. Are we making a resistance area here to trade down? Or are we making a support area here to trade up from? I'd be concerned about being a seller at the moment because we've had, if I draw a fib in on the weekly chart here from that high to low, I can see that we've rallied to the 62% level, had a continuation pattern down to the 162 extension. So at the moment on the weekly chart, price is overstretched. So I'd expect price to bounce further up. I would expect, like I drew the fib on the Euro Aussie, that from that high to that low there, I would expect this to be moving up within the fib tool, maybe up to the 62 level. I can see weekly old support there at 165.31. So price might come up to that level, hold, and then trade down. So if you see the Euro Aussie, sorry, I just lost my number, 65.31. So if you see the Euro Aussie move up, this will probably move the same way. So if I just look at the weekly, I'd expect this maybe to move up to the 62 or at least to weekly resistance at 165.31. On the daily, yes, this could break lower, but with the fact that it's made a higher bottom here, it may well move above here because the weekly chart's very much overextended. So I'd expect maybe this to move up to that level of support, old support on the weekly, 165.31 resistance, or up to the 62 area. Okay, on a high look there. But this is the question: what does 163.22 do? Does it hold as resistance or break through? Okay. Right, Stephen, that's your Euro New Zealand. You got an extra one in there, and the Euro Aussie as well. Pound franc for you, Alufa mate. Let's go through that. If I can find it. All right, pound franc. All right, we're just heading into a monthly downtrend here now. We're just breaking below the last high bottom. There's a level of monthly support here at 122.22. Weekly chart trend is downtrend. It's a bit overextended in the short term, so like the other two pairs I just ran through, I'd be drawing a fib from high to the low. If it keeps moving down, just extend it down, but it's very overextended in the short term. So maybe it's going to move back up to the 62. And you've got a level of, there's a few levels of broken support here. I'd be inclined to use the last level that's got broken to draw it in on, 125.03. Day trend is down. So of course I'm saying that the weekly trend structure is a bit overstretched. Of course, price could just keep moving down. So it does keep moving down and just keep dragging this fib down all the way down. If it keeps moving down. Of course, on the day chart here, we have, let me just take that off. On the day chart here, we've just got lower tops and bottoms, and we've got a range here that we can draw a fib tool across. And that looks like about a 62.79% retracement. So if you're trading to the short side here, you need to be very much aware of 122.22. That's major support. 4-hour chart, just breaking back to a downtrend here. We can see that's the daily range. We've rallied up just above 62 and started to move down. So at the moment, as I'm going through the lower time frames, I would say with that day chart, fib tool from that high to low, it looks very much like back to the 4-hour that we've moved down. That was a daily move down. We've moved back up. And the 4-hour chart is turning back to down. So I would anticipate maybe we're going to move down to retest daily support and maybe move down to the next level of major support at 122.22. That's how I'd be looking at that pair. Okay, Alufame, hopefully that helps you. And Alufame, you asked me, can fib tools be used in a range-bound market? Well, let me get my drawing tool. If it's a true range, then let me draw something in. If it's a true range, so we've got equal highs and equal lows. Then when you draw your fib tool across the range, let's say price action has traded down to the bottom of the range, it's starting to move up. Then if it's staying in a range, often all the Fib tool tells you is where the top of the range is, because price will trade back up to the 100% level. Sometimes though, it'll get a little bit short. And what you can then look for is a failure at and around the 79% Fib level. So you can use it in a range, but if I'm using it in a range bound environment, then the Fib level that I'm watching is the 79% level, the highest one closest up to the top of the range. Or in reverse, the 79% level, 79% Fib level closest to the bottom of the range. All right, so that's how I'd use it in a range. So what I will often do, if price is getting up maybe to, around about 90% of the range, I'll just wait to see if price wants to fall back below the 79. And then often the 79% level will act as resistance. And then you can look for an opportunity to trade down from the 79 back down to the bottom of the range, and vice versa if we're dealing with support. All right, so you can. And I'm just taking that obviously a little bit in more detail there, a little bit more experienced trading, but that's how I do potentially use the 79% level within a range. Of course, if it's getting up to the 100% level, well, you could just be watching the 100% level using the Fib tool to trade back down from resistance or up from support. All right, everybody, thanks for your questions. Hopefully you got good value from that. Hopefully you got some good levels that you can work with over the coming week, whether you're trading any one of my strategies or you've got your own trading strategy. If you've got your own trading strategy, but my trend analysis and levels have helped you, all the better. All right, so just before I say good night and bid you a safe farewell, tomorrow we do have another webinar. So Thursday, 8 p.m. Sydney time, I'm going to go take you through market trend. So yesterday I took you through support and resistance, and the next piece of the puzzle is market trend. I'm going to take you through that tomorrow and take you through what I call the mega trend. So if you struggle with trend, I have an indicator that I use to determine whether I've got a strong trend or not, and I'm sure you'll like that if you haven't seen it before. All right, everybody, if you want to register for tomorrow's webinar, then just hop onto the website. This was today's. Tomorrow is 11th of the 11th, and we're going to go through how to determine the market trend. Just hop in there and register, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. So thanks for attending today. Stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. I've got a few messages coming in, I think. They're all thanks, so thanks very much. Okay, everybody, thanks very much. See you next time.